Okay, everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Spartacus Project podcast. I'm Darren Bills, and this podcast is something extremely epic because it welcomes back the greatest podcaster in the history of arm wrestling, the most notorious man in the history of arm wrestling, and the most hated man in the history of arm wrestling, Christopher Tupac Shakur Gobby. Now,
Nice.
Chris, why do you think it is that you're the most hated man in all of arm wrestling? Because I think you're hilarious. I think
I
you're
don't know
the
if,
type of guy we
yeah,
need. So
I don't know if hated's the best word. Polarizing is probably better because there's a ton of people that hate me, but equally, maybe not equally, but there's like a 5-to-1 ratio of people that I think like me a lot. And it's simply because I just, not only do I just, freely speak my mind, I'll go out of my way to speak my mind. I'll go out of my way to ruffle shit up. And that bugs a lot of people. And that also makes things entertaining, I find. So it's pretty much all of that. And I'm really good at, you know, finding the sensitive spots to piss people off, their vulnerable areas and stuff like that. So it's just, a combination of having the skills and having the desire to just, you know, uh, open those doors and not give a fuck what happens.
yeah, I think you touched on it a little bit. You find vulnerability. You find the weakness in
Yeah,
people. You
yeah,
find their soft spot, and you dig in a little, and then you dig in a little
yeah,
more until they're
yeah.
enraged, and it works wonders, really. And it like I do the same thing. That's why I think you and I are good friends because we both we take social media and online presence for what it is. It's just a
Mhm.
playground for guys like me and you. When you're a
Yeah,
weak-minded person or you're soft, guys like me and you are gonna find it. We're gonna make you rage.
mhm. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's just it's always about finding the crack in the foundation, and most people don't know what their crack is, and so once you start fucking around with it, they subconsciously or sometimes consciously they get erratic and you can see you're touching on something, and that reaction is uh is fucking beautiful to see.
Yeah,
And
it's really
all grown men, grown women should know their triggers, and they should know their strengths and weaknesses, and where they're vulnerable and where they're not. They have to. It's part and parcel of being a functional human being. But a lot of people are clueless. Paul Italia, clueless motherfucker, clueless. Like, easiest guy to troll because he fucking, he just symptomatic of there's others that are like him, but just has no clue. And so when you troll them, some people can see, well, they see they're getting trolled, and they can pull back, and they don't necessarily react that bad because they see the intent behind it. Some people don't see the intent, and they take it personal, and it's that reaction that is just fucking. I just think it's incredibly stimulating to see and to witness a grown person um, reacting so valiantly on just a bunch of syllables and opinions. Right? It's crazy.
yeah. And as a human being, especially as an adult, grown man or woman, you should shore up your weaknesses. You should train those weaknesses until they're strong. So if you know you have a weakness, you need to shore that up. And people
Yeah,
attacking it like you or me or anybody who attacks your weakness and you feel that feeling, you think that person would want to strengthen that up.
yeah. In a perfect world, everyone should know, should be able to rectify and solidify that hole. But at the very least, you should know it exists, right? And if you know it exists and you're dealing with it, at least you're conscious of it. But the people that aren't conscious are the ones that are easily trollable. And it's always that gap, right? Every person has a gap. It's the gap of who they think they are and who they truly are, or who they want to be and who they are. And when there's that wide gap, they are easily trollable. They react harshly on opinions, and they're the people that say, "Oh, don't judge. Judgment is bad." These are the people with the wide gaps that say this. Someone who has a thin gap, a razor thin gap of who they want to be and who they are, is very centered and confident in who they are. It's not about being super strong or even complete. It's just about knowing who you are, and you're on the path to who you want to be, and you're getting close to that path, and you're conscious all the way through. And those people are always confident, and they rarely react to opinions of others.
Okay, well, since you brought up Ryan Bowen first with the thin gap and the weakness shit, we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Ryan Bowen had a match last weekend with Schoolboy, and a lot of people had Schoolboy picked as the favorite. I thought Ryan would look a lot better than he did, considering Schoolboy lost to Leonidas, who's not really an arm wrestler yet. He's a strong guy, not really an arm wrestler yet. And Ryan Bowen has technical ability. He knows what he's doing on the table. He's been at it for a long time. I thought that would be a lot closer match than it was, with him getting. It was a 6 round match. The ending score was 6-0. He probably got pinned 38 times that weren't called. Maybe 56 elbow fouls on him that weren't called. It was not close. The last round, he tried to go inside and it looked better, but why did you wait till it was already over to change? Why would you just lay out with your arms straight and get dominated like that over and over and over? I was disappointed in his performance just in general, truthfully. He didn't look strong. He didn't even look technically able until the last round. Didn't change anything, just got dominated in every aspect. And I know he's given up weight, but that's just Ryan. Ryan's always going to take matches he knows he's going to lose because that's just him. But what do you think about that?
I think he was outmatched theoretically right from the get go. I mean, he's an evader. He's a technical puller. He's an evader, and so is Schoolboy. Except Schoolboy's 6'5", and I believe probably 30, 40 pounds heavier. And if not, has longer levers. So what's he going to do? Is he going to hook him? We know he wasn't going to hook him. He's going to go for a strap. He's going to go outside, and that's what he attempted. Except I didn't see the video, but I assume he failed, and hence he drove into the King's move. But he's going against the same type of puller who's bigger, stronger, longer, and I think more technically sound. But Ryan's notorious for taking matches that's out of his weight class, so to speak, only because for the online traction, right? He'll get some. It's dramatic. He can build it up, and I think he prefers the underdog role rather than the favorite role. I think historically he does better when he's an underdog compared to when he's going in as a favorite. But um, but for me, there's no way he could have won that match. I see no outs for him. He couldn't hook him. He didn't have the stronger arm. He didn't have the better leverage. Like for me, I don't see any way he could have won that anyway.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to win. I thought he would look slightly better though. Like his performances as of late, like you remember years ago when he pulled Khalid,
Yeah.
and he beat Khalid after Khalid pulled Schoolboy. Khalid has done no arm wrestling training for those years.
Mm-hmm.
Bowen's been 100% in, 100% dedicated. We see him post all of his lifts and his videos. Bowen would still lose to Khalid today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he would beat him today.
Mm-hmm.
And what is going on with your training or your arm wrestling where you can't beat a guy years later when the guy doesn't even train?
Mm-hmm.
There might be something there.
Well, he's physically limited. Ryan's physically limited, and he's grown simply through, drive and persistency, right? I give him credit for that. I've always given him credit for those intangible qualities, but he's not a physically gifted athlete. Right? He's not. Everything he's gotten through persistence and, bringing Todd over and learning from the best and, having John as a mentor and all that shit. But this is not a spectacular elite arm wrestling athlete. Right? This is a guy that's, he's just average at best. He has no great physical skills, but he's developed just the same into a strong, technically sound arm wrestler. But he's not elite. He'll never be elite, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think he's elite at all. And it's hard to say what someone will or won't be. I don't know what he's willing to do PED wise or how hard he's willing to push himself genetically. Technically, he is technically sound, and when you hear him talk about the sport, he has knowledge. Like he's aware of what's going on. But then when he pulls, it's almost like he turns into a different guy sometimes. I don't know if it's the pressure he puts on himself or if he's feeling the moment. But I'd like to see Ryan taking matches with people he has a good chance with.
Yeah,
I don't understand punching up. You know what I mean? Like take a. I understand it might not be a name that's sexy for your YouTube views, but take a match that's going to be a good match. He wants to pull RBJ, and that wouldn't be close.
No, I don't think he's looking for good matches. People that are looking to increase their ability and slowly rise on that ladder will take matches, small increments of guys that are a little bit better, and they'll slowly defeat, and slowly through those small wins evolve. But that's not what he's trying to do, because I don't believe he can achieve greatness that way. I believe he's looking for win or lose. He's looking to hype up a match that's super dramatic, I mean, he'd take a match with um, literally anyone. I mean, he'd take a match with Levon, knowing that it would. He would take the match, knowing that he had literally zero chance, but he would take it, hype the shit out of it, and he would create traction. He's looking for traction. He's never looking for greatness. He's not looking for arm wrestling excellence. He never has been. He's always been looking for traction. He takes PEDs. It's for traction. Everything he does is for traction. It's not for excellence. But that being said, although he's not an elite arm wrestler, he does have an elite arm wrestling IQ. I give him that. His IQ, arm wrestling IQ, is very elite. He knows arm wrestling.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he is honestly very smart when it comes to table smarts. He can coach people. We might as well touch on the other Australian. Lachlan Adair had a match too with Paul Lynn, and I thought this was going to be a close one. Lachlan has a big, powerful guy. Paul Lynn's a powerhouse. We all know it, but Lachlan's a big guy, and he's taking on big matches. I thought this was going to be a close match. Like whoever can get the pins quick and not wear themselves out is going to win. He got obliterated. Like he didn't belong on the table with Paul. And Paul just toyed with him. Was not close. And I don't know if Lachlan has an injury that we don't know about, or if Paul's just on that next level. But that's like the weight range, that 230-ish weight range that Lachlan should be elite at, and he's clearly not there yet. Paul smoked him.
Yeah, I would have lost money betting on that. And I'm not shocked Paul won, but for me, that was stylistically a war between the two of them, except that, and Lachlan is, I believe, bigger. He's the bigger man, but Paul's more refined, right? Paul has probably a little bit more wrist. Paul has a little bit more all-around refinedness to his hook and his game. Lachlan's a little bit more raw, albeit probably stronger in the gym, but didn't matter. I'm not shocked, but I'm shocked that it wasn't a closer match.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't see that one coming. It was complete domination.
Yeah.
Paul never even looked tested. He just toyed with
Yeah.
him. Didn't look tested. Like maybe it was closer than it looked. Because sometimes when a match with a guy like 5 pounds of strength in one area or another might make a big difference. But it didn't look that way. It looked like Paul showed up. Lachlan didn't show up.
Yeah, but Paul's always had an incredible ceiling. I've always believed that Paul has a ridiculous ceiling. Physically gifted, and I don't think he's got incredible arm wrestling IQ, but he's got incredible arm wrestling or just general drive to pursue something. So when you take that into account with his physical skills and his potential, his capacity, it's really, it's incredibly high, his ceiling. And it does not shock me that he beat him. And it would not shock me if he beat bigger names than Lachlan. Not that Lachlan's a huge name, but Paul has a tremendous ceiling.
Yeah, Paul physically is super high level. The only thing I don't like about Paul is his predictions. He always thinks both guys are going to win.
Yeah, he's definitely a pussy when it comes to making analysis. I watched him make 5 predictions in a row, and each one he was giving positives to both. Right, he was saying, "Well, he can win, but also this guy can win, and this guy can win." But it wouldn't shock me if he refused to take a side. Right, everything was on the fence, and I fucking can't stand that. I'd rather someone be completely wrong but bold than be kind of right on both sides of the fence. And Paul's a stud, but I cannot stand that shit. I cannot stand personalities that don't have the balls to be incredibly bold. That's one thing I like about you, and that's one reason why I came back to team up with someone like you is that I see you as more or less my equal when it comes to don't give a fuckness. Like just highly opinionated, highly analytical, very articulate, and backed with a fearlessness when it comes to voicing your opinion. That's fucking awesome. And that's that. If I watch a podcast, it's always with people like that. I don't watch politically correct stuff. I don't watch. And one of my biggest rules is whenever someone says, in my opinion, I get the fuck off that podcast. And I said it once tonight, like 6 minutes ago, because it's saying like, in my opinion. Well, of course it's your opinion, right? This isn't, carved in stone. Of course, when someone makes a statement, it's always, or a prediction, it's always an opinion. But to say that, in my opinion, is a way to say, oh, I don't want to offend anyone, and if this bothers anyone, before you flip out, it's only my opinion. Like it's a passive aggressive way to say something, and I can't stand it. But yeah, anyway, Paul's a stud physically, ceilings. He's uh, tier 5 potential, crazy potential, a ton of um, mental discipline and drive. But yeah, when it comes to predictions and his personality, it's fucking lame.
Yeah, in my opinion, is a way to say nobody get offended.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
Let me put some earmuffs on you. No one. It doesn't
yeah,
really matter because it's
yeah,
just my opinion. Well,
yeah,
your opinion should fucking matter.
yeah,
You should put some balls
yeah.
behind your opinion. And I
That's
love
right.
Paul Lynn. And I've
Yeah.
met Paul Lynn in person. He's one of the nicest. Paul is that way because Paul's genuinely one of the nicest
He
human beings
is.
I've ever been around. He really wishes well for both people. He really wants both to do well. But deep down in his heart, he knows who he thinks is going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And he won't say it.
No.
He won't take that stand because he's worried. I don't know that he's
Yeah.
worried, but he doesn't want to hurt the other guy's feelings. And
Yeah.
I get that's who he is, but you can't be afraid to hurt people's feelings,
No.
especially nowadays. In the
Yeah.
culture we have now, where people get their feelings hurt if you say the wrong pronoun,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to say who you think's going to win a fucking arm wrestling match.
Yeah. I remember like in 2017, I made a meme of Paul, and he was there was a picture of a prehistoric saber-tooth tiger, like a 2-ton fucking hunting machine, and like blood dripping from its fucking teeth, and in a carcass, like all that shit. And Paul's in the corner saying, "Dude, you're a beast." Like, yes, Paul, it's a beast. Like that's Paul, right? Paul, like a 4-year-old who's retarded falls off a swing set and gets back up, and Paul's like, "Dude, you're a beast." Like Paul just, everything's a beast, right? Like it's just his way, and really, it comes from a place of he's got a good heart. Like that's Paul's got a great heart. For him to do that, it means he's never malicious. It's good intent, and he means well. And so, like all the shit I say about Paul, let's not forget that this is an incredibly good-hearted human being. However, it makes for lame. It's hard to be an audience to that, but he's a great human being. But I don't care to hear him analyze or make predictions. But yeah, everyone's a beast to Paul. But
Yeah.
God bless him. He's a good dude. He's a great dude.
Yeah. No, I get it for sure. Speaking of beast and future beast, Auden Larrett's got a match coming up with this bodybuilder, YouTuber, Instagram kind of model, James English. I don't know if you're familiar with James
Mm-hmm.
English or not. He hasn't arm wrestled much at all. He practiced with Bowen. His coach is Latchlin, so that's pretty shitty. But he's got a match coming up with Auden, and I honestly don't know why we're having the match. I might look like a fool later on, but I'm willing to say this isn't a close one. Auden should destroy this guy, and
Yeah.
it shouldn't be close.
Yeah, I don't know the other guy. Auden will win because Devin knows what he's doing when it comes to coaching or mentoring or managing his son, and he's not going to throw Auden to a pro prior to him being ready. I can guarantee you that. And Auden is um, he's following in his father's footsteps with incredible evading, trickery, going before the start, over the thumb knuckle, all this shit, pronating, back pressure before the go. And so anyone, and I don't care how strong the guy is, anyone who's not fully prepared for that level of elite cheating will get fucked. And who are they throwing? This guy's an amateur, right? I don't know him, but I know it's a setup for Auden, and I've never heard of this guy's name. Most likely, he's not very good, and so they'll keep doing that because one thing is for sure. I've watched Auden. Is it Auden or Auden? It's Auden, right? It's Auden.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah. Anyway, one thing's for sure. If he gets thrown in a hook, he's fucking torched. He doesn't train power. He doesn't train strength. Devin has him evading and using height and avoiding any little bit of war driven by muscles and tendon. So, but that being said, he's highly intelligent. He's got one of the greatest minds in his fucking living room managing him. But it's evasion and it's trickery, and keep feeding him clowns because I don't think he's training in the right way where he's ever going to beat. Like, look at me. Like I'm what 2-3 years removed from active arm wrestling, and just my style would destroy him. He can't be in a hook. He can't lose his pronation, right? And if the reffing is good and anything like that, he's fucked. Everything he does is trickery and having an advantage over the opponent before the ready go, and just like his father. And so for sure, if you pull someone that lacks experience to combat that trickery, the guy's going to get diced. So I don't know this other guy, but I'd bet a ton on Auden for sure. You know,
Yeah, Auden's gonna kill this matchup, I think. But I think you're underestimating Auden a little bit. You think you'd beat Auden
nah.
right now? And you think if you threw Auden in a hook, you'd pin him right now?
Um, I don't think I'd be able to just throw him in a hook. There's too much commitment to anyone historically who fully commits to outside arm wrestling is is a struggle with me. The people I historically did with are people that are kind of balanced and they try to roll. And as soon as the pronation gets buckled, semi-buckled, they go into a survival mode and they go into that hook. And I'm in a lesser position and I beat them. But people that are very reluctant by design to release their pronation and will even go lower and raise their pronation or their rising ability is a struggle for me. I try to get into the strap, but I don't know. I don't think he has any side pressure or bicep. And historically, again, people like that struggle with me. I'm not saying off the couch I can beat him, but if it was set up, which it would never be set up, his father doesn't have the balls to set that match up. But if it was set up, I'd train and beat him for sure. I would, because he has no arm. He has no balls. He's got no elbow. He's got no grinding. All he has is clownness, a verb, but that's what he has. He's a clown like his dad. They clown. Now, I call Devin a clown, but Devin is arguably one of the best, if not the best, arm wrestlers to ever live. And at a certain point, he was absolutely godlike. But I haven't seen any of that in the last 7-8 years. All I see is clowning, and he's entitled to that, and I'm entitled to call him a clown because that's how he pulls. And that's when I see Auden, I see clown. I don't see warrior. I don't see stud. I don't see a guy looking to physically evolve. I don't see a guy who's looking to battle hard and come out on top. I see gamesmanship and I see clowning.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
yeah. Devin's 100% a showman, but like you said, he's one of the best ever. He's super effective.
Yeah.
But he does have the clown, the court jester. He plays both roles, and Auden does do that. But when I think about Auden, he's still just a kid, and if he's able to grow out of that, if he's able to see that he doesn't really have to play that role all the time, and he's willing. I feel like he's going to get a bad rap because his dad is Devin, and he's going to have this pampered prima donna bring up where he's got one of the goats in as his father raising him. The kid looks skilled though, and he looks strong. I don't think he'll ever be a grinder, but
isn't he 18?
Strong.
He's not 18. Are you telling me he's not 18?
Yeah, he's like 18 or 19, but he might even be 20.
So he's a man. So he's a man. Yeah. He's not a kid. He's a man. Yeah. But he's a man. 18, 19, 20. He's full of testosterone and growth hormone and good natural things flowing inside of him, and he's pronating and getting under the table, and he's evading and he's avoiding, and he's like, if I had a son, like you talk to me about your son, everything you talk to me about your son, like he's fucking awesome. Like he's the type of son I would want if I had a son. Like he's a great wrestler, he's a fighter, he's got resiliency, and he's intelligent. He's a good kid. Like that's something to be proud of. And I'm not saying Auden won't develop into that, but if he would, why wouldn't you start right out of the gates with that base principle of get strong, get resilient, learn how to lose the right way, learn how to win the right way. These basic core values of athleticism and competition. But instead, it's clowning. It's when you have his mother in the background, yelling elbow 75 times in a 2-minute span. Like, the fuck's going on? Like, how are those core values to raise a teen into adulthood about the honor of competition? And I don't know. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, when you put it like that, I mean, I haven't thought about it like if I was raised in Auden, but yeah, I wouldn't teach him that way. You got to instill that warrior spirit early on.
Yeah. Now, if he develops that way, because he's tall and lanky, right? He's not short and stocky, so he's built to roll and evade. But I mean, so a kid could evolve any which way. But as a parent, as a mentor, even, you want to create a base of fight spirit. Win or lose, fuck it. Fight spirit. Honor, respect, fighting spirit, and he has none of those that I see. Of course, I'm not following him every day. People send me videos, I'll see them, but I don't really follow him. But from what I've seen, it's a clown raising a clown. And I mean clown, I don't mean a good kid or he's a he's educating himself. He's not I'm not saying he's not a good human being that has good intent. I'm just saying that when it comes to stylistically and his approach to arm wrestling, the fucking clown.
Yeah.
Like your dad, the clown.
Yeah, no, I see it. I can see that. And Jody drives me fucking crazy. Like I'm I'm sure Devin loves her. She's a good wife. If my wife was acting like that while I was pulling, it would happen one time. And I'm not saying I'd abuse her, but I'd let her know this is fucking ridiculous. I was watching a highlight reel of Devin's earlier, and I forgot about during his match with Wagner Bortolato. They're in a deep hook fighting. She's literally climbing over the barrier in the background, straddling it, cheering, throwing her hand. Like, it's one thing to support your husband and be a positive influence on him. It's another thing to try to make it about you. And that's what it looks like. Looks like it's more about those. That's more about her than it is about supporting him. When she's yelling, "Steal his soul, Devin. Your aura is extending beyond this room." What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is that?
Either she's an absolute fucking narcissist nut job, or it's by design create her own social media traction as a of course attached to Devin, but she's an out of work actress, so she has that desire to be on screen and to be dramatic and to be the world be around her, geared around her and to her to have the attention, and so that's her way of I think injecting herself in the arm wrestling world, because she can't do it as an athlete. She does arm wrestle, but she's nowhere near an elite female arm wrestler, so she interjects herself as the clown, being the clown's wife and being loud and boisterous and never shutting up. But, like I'm with you. If she, my wife, my girlfriend, it's your role is to support and nurse my wounds afterwards, and be a supporting part of the supporting structure to my world. But keep your face and your mouth outside the camera. Unless someone's asking you a question, then you can be completely candid and speak your mind, of course. But don't interject your personality where you're in an arena where you're not even competing. Like, what the fuck is that about?
Yeah, and it goes both ways. My wife competes. She arm wrestles. She does Irish dance. She does other things. Yeah. And I know a lot about arm wrestling. I've trained her, but I would never interject myself into her match like that. I would never. We just pulled the States last weekend. I wasn't on stage screaming. Like, I would never make her match about me or try to get any of the attention while she's pulling. I'm there to help her, but I'm not there to take over. She needs to walk on her own 2 feet and figure it out herself and do her thing. Plus, Devin's one of the best fucking ever. He doesn't need you yelling elbow down. When we watched that super match, I forget who he was even pulling, but we muted it. I could not listen to her scream elbow down anymore. It was killing me.
I got one better for you. Like that's a professional environment, right? So you can expect a lot of things, and all the athletes are so elite that they can pretty much focus out all the bullshit. But I remember watching the Eric Hussein's Ontario Ottawa Open, and Auden's older brother was pulling. What was it, Auden? He was pulling. Yeah, it was his older brother, and he was pulling in an amateur class because he wasn't ready for pro, and that's cool. And he was pulling. Was it novice or amateur or a kids class? I don't know, but he was pulling a younger kid who seemed smaller and who had no experience in setting up. And so, he should kill him. And I think he was in the setup, he was struggling, and the other guy was giving him a good fight. And we have Jody in the corner, elbow down, ref, fucking elbow down, elbow down. And the other kid's like, what the hell's going on? Like, do you need to do that? Your son has the best pedigree in the history of our sport. You could not have better pedigree and better mentorship and a better house to live in. And you have to yell and intimidate the 16-year-old he's pulling. Like, you need to do that so he can win a medal, maybe, and he didn't. I don't think he did. You need to do that. Is that who you are? I find that outstandingly stupid. But
they're, and on top of everything you said, they're kids. These are children.
Yeah.
I coach my son. I coach my son at his wrestling tournaments, and I see people like that all the time. Like, there was a coach on the other team that wouldn't shake my son's hand after he pinned the kid, and it's like, you're a fucking grown ass man. These are children. Right. My son's 12. What are you doing? Shake his hand.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So yeah, I just don't understand it. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
We'll move
Yeah. Go
on.
ahead.
I don't, that kind of shit gets me squirrely anyway. I hate thinking about people like that to kids. But in your opinion, I don't know if we even know this person yet or not, or who you would pick. Who do you think the first person to beat Levon right-handed will be? Is it someone we know now, or do you think it's someone we haven't seen, or do you think it could be Brian Shaw? He's getting trained by Devin now.
Yeah.
Who do you think
Um,
that's going to be?
it's probably not Brian Shaw because my instinct tells me that he'll come in, he'll do a little bit of training, he'll compete in the tournament, he'll lose, and he'll fade away just like uh, Larry Wheels. When you come in with a massive ego and you're used to winning and dominating, arm wrestling will not generally treat you very well out of the gates. And unless you're very humble, which elite athletes in their respective sports generally aren't, or you absolutely love the sport, which generally I don't think Larry Wheels or Shaw are going into arm wrestling because they absolutely love the mechanics and the culture of arm wrestling. I think it's just, again, something different and traction, social media traction, but um, it's not for love. So I think as soon as he takes a hard loss, and he's, elbows are hurting, he's got to have damage, right? He's got to have so much wear and tear. I think as soon as he loses to a 6'2", 210-pound elite light heavyweight, he's done. He'll try maybe one more time, and then he'll go out. But I mean, we're talking a guy 6'8", over 400 pounds, solid. Now, if he stayed in the sport with good training for 5-6 years, could he theoretically beat Levon? Of course he can. Of course he could, because that's the same ilk, right? That's what Levon is. It's a huge fucking guy who takes a ton of juice, who's strong everywhere, and like it's that ilk. He can do it, but will he stay in the sport that long? So I don't know if we have a guy. I mean, I'm not good with names, but there's a big fucking Polish guy that's about 6'9". What's his name? Was an offensive lineman in the NFL, I think. Huge guy. Gives Devin tough matches left. Is it Polish?
Oh, Camille?
No, not Camille. Bigger than Camille. No, bigger than Camille. Anyway, yeah, him, Alex Predeccia. He has the raw ability and the size, and has more leverage than Levon. I don't think he's got the intangibles. I don't think he has the drive. But then again, I don't think Levon has great drive. I just think he's good, equal parts gifted with equal parts chemistry, right? I don't see great intangibles. The guy needed oxygen to finish off a competitor that was 180 pounds lighter. What a fucking joke! But Alex could potentially do it if he stays and he drives hard. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on anyone anytime soon. Yourself, any ideas?
Yeah, I think Hermes is going to beat him. I think Hermes is going to end up being the one to beat him because Hermes has already shown he's doesn't give a fuck about health. He's gained so much weight and so much mass, and he's hitting that juice train hard. And they had a war last time, and I think he's got more room for potential with growth than Levon does. Levon's pretty much maxed out. I think for Levon in the future, it's going to be how much can he maintain. I don't know if he can get much stronger.
Yeah.
He can't get much bigger without dying, or he's going to end up like Dennis.
Yeah, and if you're him, and you're in your prime of your life, and you've dominated the sport with no challenge for half a decade, wouldn't you look elsewhere? Bigger money? Wouldn't you look at something else? A different challenge? More, wouldn't you? Because boredom has to be a huge complacency and boredom at the top for 5 years with no one even close cannot be good. And at the same time, Hermes is probably super driven and every day thinks about beating him. So I don't know. When someone's strong enough to beat him, will even Levon still be in the sport?
Yeah, he might fade out. I mean, he's getting acting roles. He's doing a couple movies and shit now. Yeah, I don't think it's a super high probability that Hermes beats him, but if I had to pick one guy in the next 3 years,
I mean, he beat him. He beat him, right? He got 2 wins.
He stopped him.
2 wins.
No, they didn't give him any
wins.
Did he get a win? No.
Fuck.
No,
They gave him a win.
They should have
Well,
given him wins when he wouldn't pull anymore.
yeah,
Those should have counted for him.
yeah, because just the fact that he lost his wrist and drove through him, virtually to a pin, if I recollect correctly, if I remember correctly. But and then he gets fucking wound by Devin. That's fucking weird. Like he must have been so mentally fucked when he pulled Devin prior to Levon. Like I don't, that was crazy. Anyway, but yeah, that's a good question. I don't see, Alex physically makes sense, but does he have the drive? Is he even completely committed and engaged in the sport? I don't know.
Yeah, Alex is committed. He's a big motherfucker. He's
Is
my
he?
second
He's
choice.
huge.
Yeah,
Well, he's 6'9", I think, and he's a thick 6'9". He's probably close to 400 with less than 27% body fat. Like he's a solid dude. He's a side. Well, I believe he tried out for NFL team, but he's essentially a big, strong offensive lineman.
yeah, he's
Um,
massive.
yeah, but so he technically can do it, and he has longer levers than Levon. But you know,
Yeah, Alex isn't a bitch either. Alex Kardashian will
no,
fight. He's got warrior
yeah,
spirit for sure.
yeah. But Levon is also, like Devin said, yes, he's super strong and this and that, but the guy has an incredible arsenal of weaponry. Like his hand and wrist are. I mean, that match with Devin, everyone's like, "Oh my God, Devin has him." The guy was fucking um, playing with him. He was sandbagging that match. Um, Unreal how strong he is, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I thought Devin was going
crazy
to win
hand,
that match.
crazy hand and wrist, crazy hand and wrist. Um, you know, Anyway, yeah, no, I don't know, but it's interesting to see what will happen. But yeah, King of the Hill.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, either Father Time will beat him or someone will. There was probably some unknown beast out there too training right now that we don't know about. You touched on Brian Shaw earlier. It won't be Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw's way too old. He's way too old to be starting arm wrestling and trying to get to a high level. I know he's the world's strongest man. I know he's got freakish strength. But Brian Shaw, it's going to take him 3 years to figure out how to even arm wrestle at the table. The table's not
Mm-hmm.
made for a man as giant as him. Like Levon's a big guy, but Levon's not 6'9". Like Brian Shaw's
Mm-hmm.
wider than the table. His elbow's the size of the pad. It's going to take him a long time to even figure out how to move
Mm-hmm.
properly, and he's not going to make any money doing it. Really, like he
No, no,
might get
no.
paid to show up, but he's not. He can make more money doing a weightlifting video. Like he doesn't need arm
Yeah,
wrestling like some of these guys. Like in Georgia, Levon is their national hero. He needs
yeah,
arm wrestling. Brian Shaw does
yeah.
not need it at all.
No,
And that
no.
fire is going to burn out real quick. I feel he's like he said, if he dug in and was 100% behind it, of course he could. But I don't think there's a fucking chance in hell he will. Why would he? What does he give a
No,
fuck?
no, it makes no sense. But now that I think about it, and we talked about him prior in the show, but if you give me like 20-1 odds, I would say that Schoolboy. I would say it wouldn't shock me if he beats him in 3 years. 6'5", incredible arm wrestling IQ, still very untapped in his ceiling. Can put on a lot of weight if he wanted to, if he took the right stuff. I mean, longer, better levers, is completely engaged in the sport. It wouldn't shock me in 3 years because it's not going to be a 5'11" guy. I don't think it's going to be a guy with short levers. It's going to
Fuck.
be I think it's going to be now. Hermes has shown that he can do it, but I also think that super match made Levon go back and work on some things as well, so that might never happen again. But I'm looking at people that are 6'4", 6'5" plus with longer forearms than Levon and potentially a bigger, longer hand. That's what it would be. Younger,
Yeah.
hungrier. That's what it would be.
Yeah, it's going to be a guy in his 20s, not Brian Shaw who's in his
No,
40s.
no, 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 no. And banged up and nothing to. But I mean, I get it. It's a sexy idea. It's just that
It seems
it's a
sexy
myth.
because he doesn't know. He hasn't been on
Yeah.
the table with someone trying to kill him in a super match who's half his size, and then they smoke him, and he's like, "What am I doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well, it's
So
Larry Wheels. Like Larry Wheels did the same thing. He came in, he put in some money, he had some super matches. He dealt with some injuries. He dealt with some rough injuries, and then he faded. Like, of course you're going to fade. Dude. This isn't your number one sport. This isn't what you've grown up, idolizing and dreaming. This isn't. He's not. They're not passionate about arm wrestling like we are. Were. So you can't expect that.
Yeah, and you could argue that Larry is like, I know people talk about the genetic freak of Brian Shaw. You could argue pound for pound, Larry is equal his genetic freak. The numbers that guy's able to put up and move in
pound
strongman,
for pound,
pound for
he's
pound.
stronger.
Yeah,
He's stronger. I mean, his numbers are comparable, and he's what 100 pounds lighter.
at least.
Imagine, and he's lean. Imagine if he said, "I'm going to get a gut and go up to about 390." He'd crush every record.
Yeah,
Every record.
yeah,
He's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that guy struggles still.
Mm-hmm.
So and he's within a weight class. Like I know he pulls big guys, but he should have super matches with 242 guys, and he has. So Brian's never going to pull anyone who's not a massive super heavyweight unless they're just trying to hurt his ego, unless they're trying to hurt his feelings. Like they're going to have to give him heavyweight guys that aren't good. You can't have Brian Shaw coming in pulling a 200. It would look ridiculous. A guy half his size just toying with him.
No, but if he pulls in a tournament and an RVJ side guy pulls up,
yeah,
I mean, just for kicks and for kicks and smokes him, the guy's done. Like you'll never see him again. Sasho, what 5'5"? He beats Brian. He's 2 feet shorter than Brian Shaw. 200 pounds lighter. Smokes him in a hook.
That would be brutal.
Good luck adjusting that, Brian Shaw.
He's using the step stool to get up to you, and then he just buries him. I'd like to see it.
Snaps him in a hook. Fuck.
That'd be awesome.
Crazy. But it would never happen, right? Because they would protect him. Like they would protect whoever's managing him. You have to protect him. You can't. Because it would destroy him, right? I don't know. Unless he doesn't give a flying fuck and someone's giving him 25,000 for that match, and then he might take an L. Just fuck it, have a couple of laughs and then just fade out of the sport. No harm, no foul. But
the spotlight's always on it. The spotlight's always on him. He doesn't want to keep posting that content, So I don't think Brian Shaw is gonna. It'd be cool. I hope that he does because it would be awesome for arm wrestling with his following. But it's not going to happen. For sure, it's not going to happen. There's no chance. And I want to talk to you about something now I never thought I would discuss with another grown man, let alone on a podcast. The WNBA. What is going on right now with I see the WNBA on all the clips on my phone. It's on the TV. It's everywhere. Stephen A. Smith's talking about it on First Take. We got WNBA shit everywhere. And it's because of Caitlin Clark. We get that. But what do you make of that? What do you make of WNBA being mainstream now?
So I think the WNBA has been going for 10 years, right? And so I never paid attention to it, but now all of a sudden it's on ESPN, TSN, all the stuff. I flip channels and I see it. So, and I hear the Caitlin Clark thing. So I'm trying to keep an open mind. So even though I know that Chris Gobby can beat the best female basketball player one-on-one, okay, I'm trying to keep an open mind. And I don't play basketball, and I'm 5'6", and 49. But and
you're so humble.
But just box them out and grab every board. What the fuck are you gonna do? So anyway, one night I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, I've watched it for 7 minutes and I've seen 7 missed layups, I've seen 4 air balls, and I've seen like not one dunk. They're yes, they're not as athletic. Women are not equal to men physically. But you have to understand that when it comes to men versus women, not only can women not play with men in football or impact sports like hockey, rugby, the powers that be deem that women cannot play with men in ping pong, table tennis, badminton, and or billiards. Okay, so when we watch, for one reason, if we sit down and watch NBA, NFL, football, basketball, baseball, we want to be entertained, and what entertains us is the best athletes in their respective sport. Unless it's your son playing like Division II, and it's different. You're supporting, and you have a vested interest, right? You're biased. But other than that, we want to see the best. So the question I ask myself is, why are women playing basketball on primetime TV when a 15-year-old male basketball player in high school who can be 6'8", 6'9" with a 4-foot vertical leap and much more entertaining to watch is not? And the reason is society today wants to equalize women, even though they never will be equal. So you create, and they're only viable because they are subsidized by men. They cannot generate enough people in the arena to have their own league self-sufficient, right? The NBA feeds them money so they can exist. And I hear people crying, well, how come they can't make the same as LeBron? Are you fucking crazy? No one's gonna watch them play. Like no, like are you fucking nuts? So I find it's just force feeding us this so that digest the illusion that they're equal and formidable and deserve the spotlight when they're not formidable, they're not equal, and they do not deserve the spotlight. But yet they are. Yet here they are on the spotlight because the powers that be decide that, you know. But usually things that are forced down our throat, um, trend that are things that trend socially, they last for about a year, 2 years, and then they fade. So if I'm a betting man, we're not watching women's basketball in 2 years. It won't survive, or it'll still be there, but people are just okay enough. It's over. It was a flash. It was trendy. It was cool to talk about. Now we realize that um, the plumber that I pay $27 an hour to fix my kitchen pipes beats them all, and he doesn't play basketball, and he's 64 years old. This is a reality. Women, like I remember, like it's a shit product, and I have nothing. I think women should have their own leagues, but not 8 o'clock on a Friday night on ESPN. You're not good enough. Have you play in a gymnasium, play in a Legion Hall. I don't give a fuck where you play. You want to play. Play against men, play interleague. I don't care what it is, co-ed, whatever floats your boat. But don't pretend that you deserve the top, a top spot on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon when there are 12-year-old boys crush you. There was a thing years ago where the American or Canadian women's soccer team played a bunch of 12-year-old boys and got beat 17-0.
Yeah.
Soccer.
Okay? The U.S. team, they played 15 on their boys and they got beat 8-0. The Australians women's team did it too. It's happened many times. Yeah. It's not close.
No, it's not close. So why aren't we watching 13? This sounds terrible for me to say, but why aren't we watching 13 or 12-year-old boys play sports? If the FBI has a mic in my house, I'm fucked. But like, if we're looking to be entertained by athleticism, why are high-level young male teen athletes not on TV being paid? And why are we watching Caitlin Clark? Like, why are we watching? Now, she's exceptional, but she doesn't beat me one-on-one. I don't give a fuck. She doesn't beat me one-on-one.
No.
Ronda Rousey, the best fighter in the history of female fighting. She doesn't beat me, and I'm not a fighter.
Yeah.
She doesn't. What do you want? Like, it is not equal. It is not equal. But anyway.
It's an agenda. It's an agenda.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you touched on it a lot, but it's an agenda. It's getting force fed down our throat. And I don't have anything against women having their own sports. They should. They should have their own sports. And I wish great success for them. But the reason that they don't get primetime television, that they haven't in the 20 years since they've been subsidized by the men, is because it's not primetime entertainment. No. It's not as fun to watch. The first WNBA game, it wasn't even a WNBA game. I watched the Caitlin Clark National Championship game because I was like, I got to see what all this fuss is about.
Iowa. Was it Iowa?
Yeah. Iowa. Yeah, it was fucking horrific. It was horrible to watch. People missing layups, turnovers, bricks, zero athleticism. It was not entertaining. The only reason that they're getting all this fuss right now is because Caitlin Clark's the first woman that can shoot. Like, she can shoot. She can at least shoot, but she shoots against women. She's not shooting against men. And to try to pretend like Caitlin Clark would be successful, or any woman would be successful playing against the highest male athletes in the world, is absurd. And the equality thing is a joke because we're not equal. We're different. Men and women are different. I love my wife because she's not a man. That's the main fucking reason I love her. I don't want my equal. I want my counterpart. And that's what she does shit way better than me. I do shit way better than her. We're different. We're not the same. And there's no reason to pretend we are. Yeah. And Caitlin Clark would get mauled at a middle school practice. If you took the top 5 middle school players and put her on the other team, she's going to be the weakest link. She's going to get balled on by those kids. Dunked on. They're going to block all of her shots. She's never going to get separation. It won't be close. But it's an agenda to push down our throats that men are lower, women are higher. And instead of just embracing the differences between men and women, we have to beat men down to where we don't even need them. We don't need these men anymore. We need you to build the bridges and build our buildings and build the arena we play in, and we need you to run the cameras that film us and make the balls
Pair
we play
salaries,
with.
pair
Yeah,
salaries,
subsidize our entire league, but we don't need
yeah.
you other than that. And that's horseshit. Men need to stand up against that. And it's not bashing women to say that athletically women are not equal, because they're not. That's why they compete separately.
I mean, they can't even play ping pong with us. Like they can't.
I
Right?
don't know anything about ping pong, but it seems crazy that you say that, but it might be true. Yeah, I've
because
never.
because not only do they're not stronger, faster. They don't have the dexterity, hand-eye coordination.
That's true.
You watch women, the best female basketball players, and you'll never see a smooth. They're not. You know, you'll never see a smooth finger roll. Like they're just not. Nothing against women. It's just a fact, right? They're just not as. It's not a question of they're not as strong. They're not as fluid. They're not as athletic. They're not as agile. They're not as. They don't have the hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be.
No, they're not. So don't try to tell me differently by creating an agenda. I mean, you do what you want, but it's BS, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's total
but it's all
horseshit.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I wish the best for him. Like you said, 2 years. I mean, I think in 6 months we won't be talking about it anymore because
yeah.
I've watched the game, and I think all the people talking about it, they're not sitting down and watching the game. They're not the ones buying the tickets. Because when you watch that shit, it's no good. There's no entertainment value. It's just people that are talking heads that are getting on their soapboxes. It's people that are like, yeah, I have something to yell at you about now. We're loud and we're proud, but I don't know shit about what I'm talking about. That's that crowd, and they'll yell for anything.
For sure. Yeah, well, agreed.
All right, I'd like to move on to a more manly sport. Let's talk about football. I'm really excited this year because I'm a lifelong Lions fan, and we're fucking good. Finally, we're good. And like the Lions and Niners and Chiefs, there's a lot of good teams out there. What's at least one team you think that could surprise people by winning the Super Bowl that's not in that top tier, or at least get to the Super Bowl? Get to the Super Bowl that's not in that top tier.
Yeah, I can answer that, but before I answer that, I have to ask you: are the Detroit Lions the most pitiful, pathetic franchise in sports, organized sports history?
No,
I'm being honest. I'm not trying to take a shot. Like
no, I know.
When we're talking playoff futility, we're looking at the Detroit Lions. We're looking at
Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland's there. Cleveland Cavaliers prior to
LeBron. Cavaliers have won some shit.
Yeah.
No, we're one of them. If you count the entire history, it's close. Yeah, we're in the bottom three.
However, now they have a team, right? Now they have I seem like they have good management, good ownership, and boy, do they have and they had one of the best drafts of any team this year. They got they got two stud defensive backs. They stole 2 picks. Anyway, so to answer your question, what's elite, what's not elite? Obviously, do you consider the Baltimore Ravens elite?
I think
or that second tier.
I don't think they're elite. I think they suck, but I think a lot of people would pick them.
I won't use them as a dark horse because they don't have a quarterback. They have an elite defense, an elite running game, an elite tight end, and an elite offensive line, and they got a clown as a quarterback, a running back as a quarterback. Anyway, to answer your question, the answer, unless you consider this team super elite, but I consider I say the Buffalo Bills, and that's only because they have the best quarterback in the league.
Yeah, I can respect it. The Bills are good.
I mean, I'm saying he's the best quarterback in the league. If I had $1 million to bet on one game and I had to pick one quarterback, would I pick Josh Allen over Mahomes? With everything being equal, probably not. Mahomes is just too refined and so ridiculously clutch. But Josh Allen, cannon arm, strong legs, a ton of heart. He's getting better every year. And yes, we've talked about this, the interceptions, but he had 2 less picks than Mahomes. But he's Brett Favre, bigger version. Like he's a gunslinger, and he's when they're covering. How many quarterbacks in the history of our game, when coverage is strong and pressure is strong, he just runs through tackles, or gets stopped and picks up 2. They have plays for him on 4th and 2, kind of like what they did with Cam Newton, but they abused the shit out of Cam Newton. And Cam Newton, didn't have the full arsenal this guy has, but he was as big. Both guys are 6'5", 265, something like that. But this guy's got a ton of heart. Just I don't know. I'm a big fan. Not historically a big fan of the Buffalo Bills. I mean, 91, 92, 93, 94, right? Fucking Scott Norwood. But, I mean, you can compare them. I mean, we're talking about futility of the Lions, but I can tell you that when you go back into the early 90s, although they went to the Super Bowl a few times, those are some pathetic losses, right? They were clowned. They were they're a pretty pitiful franchise at that point as well. Despite the success, they just couldn't get it done. Anyway, so I just think Buffalo Bills, despite losing a few key players, actually lost about 5-6 starters, just because of him, I think, and they play in a weak division. Patriots are not what they used to be. I mean, the Jets are always junk. I just think they'll have to get through Mahomes again. But the AFC is so strong. But I also think I love Cincinnati because Joe Burrows is just he's not as physically gifted as Josh, but I've seen him have a game 2 years ago, 28 for 31, 440 yards, 5 touchdowns. Like this guy puts up those numbers. He's got great receivers. He's got 2-3 elite receivers, but
he's also been sacked more than fucking anyone in history.
Yeah, the sport's going in a different direction. Man, this sounds terrible. I'm a big fan of the 6'2" to 6'5" white quarterback that doesn't have jewelry, a parole officer, or do breakdance in the end zone. Like I just like the strong-minded. There's not many of them. There's maybe 3 left in the league, and I say white, but Mahomes is technically black, and he's a stud, right? He's tough. Yeah, he plays through injuries. He played through a high ankle sprain. He's a stud. I'm not a bigot or a racist, but I love the prototypical 6'4", strong arm, can throw every pass in any position, plays on time. Leads his receivers, picks up hard yards. Jackson for Baltimore put some great numbers in the last 5 years. He's surrounded by elite defense. He's top 3 defense, top 3 running game. Despite his, we're not talking his numbers. They always have a strong running game despite him. Top offensive line. He gets protected, and they cruise into the playoffs, and then he fumbles.
Did you want to hear a crazy stat about? You want to hear a crazy stat about Jackson? Last season, Jared Goff threw more touchdowns in last postseason than Lamar Jackson's thrown in all of his playoff games combined.
Yeah, he's not a good playoff guy. He's not a good playoff guy. When you put the pressure on him, he shits the bed every time.
They were trying to trade him. They were trying to get rid of him. Yeah. There's a reason no team wanted him. Yeah. No other team wanted him.
However, they play a weaker team. Always well protected, and he has Andrews, and he has all these tools around him, and all this weaponry around him. He looks amazing. Hence, he won the MVP. Was it 2 years ago? 3 years ago, he won the MVP, and then got slapped in the playoffs. Slapped.
Yeah. That's right. That's it.
2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. I saw one play. It was middle of last season. He threw. I think they were playing Cleveland. They lost to Cleveland. I think they were in Baltimore. Anyway, he threw a pick early in the 4th quarter, and the defensive back was running for a pick 6, and Jackson ran to kind of tackle him, but didn't really try to run. Didn't really all out try to take him out. Because let's face it, Jackson is a 4-3 guy. If he wants to go sideline to sideline,
he could have picked his pocket.
He didn't really try to catch him. He was almost like, "Oh, I threw a pick. This sucks," and he kind of moped to the sideline while the other guy scored a pick 6. And I'm thinking, you are one gutless motherfucker.
Yeah,
black, white, Asian, Portuguese. I don't give a fuck. You have no heart. You are a gutless fuck. And I would never that guy does not make my team. If I was on owner of a team. He's cut the next day or traded, or I don't give a fuck. No way.
Yeah,
No
he's
way.
not worth his contract because he's
No.
gonna get he's gonna get you to the dance and then he's gonna leave you hanging every time. That's my
Yeah.
opinion. I don't think he'll ever get
Yeah.
it in the playoffs against other guys that are cut from different cloths. I wouldn't want him. Everyone was talking about the Lions trading for him when they were trying to get rid of him, and I was like, "Are you fucking crazy?" Jared Goff has been arguably the best quarterback in the NFC the past 2 years, and
Yeah.
you want to trade for this guy?
Yeah. He's been great, but he's surrounded by a lot of great stuff. But he
They
again
padded him.
needs to be more clutch. His best games last year were not in the postseason. Um, Mahomes' best games were in the postseason, I think. Josh Allen had a wicked game against the Steelers. You need to have your best games when the games matter the most, not in week 2 against the Jets. Anyone can exploit a shitty team and pat themselves on the back, but the champions and the winners do it when it matters. Like Mahomes, good example. You know, Rodgers, holy fuck, I mean, Aaron Rodgers. Um, I made an argument 6, 7 years ago that he was the greatest athlete of all time. It was between him and Jordan, and I sat down with a pencil and a paper and I broke it down like incredibly objective and non-subjective, and uh, every fact and everything I can bring into the and I had Jordan, you know, squeaking it out as the greatest athlete of all time, but Rodgers was second. And some people say he's not even the best quarterback in his era. Brady is, but he's not. He's better than Brady.
Yeah, you start bringing up that GOAT debate, and it's complicated because it depends on what's your definition of greatest. Like Tom Brady's had the greatest career,
yeah.
but Aaron Rodgers
not,
is a quarterback who's more talented for sure.
Yeah. Career and stats, especially in football, there is no bigger team sport than football when your stats can be affected by your teammates. Okay, this isn't MLB. This isn't a guy who had a 340 career batting average. Okay, that's all you. If you don't have, I'll give you a greatest example on earth. Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders played in the same era. Emmitt Smith over a career had better stats than Barry Sanders. If you took Barry Sanders and you gave him the Dallas Cowboys offensive line and you gave Emmitt Smith the Detroit team, Barry Sanders would have ran for 2,600 yards a season, and Emmitt Smith would have ran for 800. Emmitt Smith would have never been a Hall of Famer, would have never made a Pro Bowl. Barry Sanders would have had a statue everywhere. So Brady, although he didn't always have a great team, he was surrounded. And Brady is great. Brady is clutch. He's probably the most clutch quarterback I've ever seen. But when I talk about great, it's greatness visually, greatness capacity. And Rodgers, to me, was the best thrower of the football I've ever seen. And second is Dan Marino. Now, no one talks about Dan Marino because he never won a Super Bowl. But if you're old enough to watch Dan Marino in the late 80s,
he was ahead of his
even
time.
watch videos, great release, had no mobility. Great release, any angle, on the money, every ball, clutch. Never won a Super Bowl. Yeah, he never had a defense. He had Mark Clayton and Mark Duper, who are pretty much semi-no-name wide receivers. One might have made a Pro Bowl, but I mean, Joe Montana had Craig, had great coaching, great defense. Hall of Famers surrounded him everywhere. So, and I'm not saying he's not great. I'm just saying when you say great and you base it on stats in a career, you're not being completely objective. You actually have to say, what happened if Dan Marino played for the 49ers? What happened if you have to be able to be you have to be able to have deductive reasoning saying that, well, it's not that clear. If I put this guy here and I changed the environment, what would those numbers look like? And if Aaron Rodgers had a better team in some of those years, he would have never lost. But it's just hard. Like simple minds love to look at stats and 6 rings, 7 rings. Oh, he's the best. He's got 7 rings. No one else has more than 4. He's the best. Yeah, I don't look at it that way. I mean, you can look at it that way, but I think simple minds look at simple things. I think deductive reasoning says you need to look at everything. And it's still razor thin. Like Brady, someone that say I have a buddy that says he's the GOAT, and it's like, it's a sound argument. I'm not going to call him a dummy. Like, that's a good argument. I just think that if I had one game to win with a great team around a guy and I had to win, what quarterback in his prime do I take? And it's fucking Aaron Rodgers. Basketball, it's not LeBron, it's Jordan. And you can always, argue stats, but it's, and again, it's my subjective and objective opinion, but it's for me, Aaron Rodgers, 2009, 2010, fuck yeah, the year he won the Super Bowl, he could have had a 24 for 24 game, except the wide receiver dropped 3 passes. That's how fucking money this guy was. Like his accuracy, running out of the pocket, in the pocket, any throw, sidearm. No, he didn't fumble. He didn't throw interceptions. He didn't. But I will say, Brady, hands down. Well, Brady went absolute clutch. Like that guy was ridiculously clutch. When he had a bad game, if he was even close in the fourth quarter, he would find a way. But there's more to it than just clutch. Like you were talking, greatness is greatness, greatest, not career, not stats, greatest. Because when you talk about a great career, longevity comes into play, coaching comes into play, health comes into play. A lot of things come into play, but I'm just talking the eye test, sheer greatness. And like I always say, if a guy came into arm wrestling tomorrow, like John's the GOAT, Devin's the GOAT, if a guy came into the sport tomorrow and a no name, and he went to a tournament and he just blew everyone away. And then he went to the Worlds and blew everyone away. And then he had, I'm going to have one super match with Levon. And he stonewalled Levon and pinned him while smiling. And then we never saw him again. He pulled 3 tournaments, two tournaments, 1 super match. He left. I got news for you, buddy. He's the GOAT. Oh, he can't be the GOAT. He only pulled for 5 minutes. He's the fucking GOAT. Well, he didn't pull. I don't give a fuck who he pulled, didn't pull. I don't care how many years he pulled. I don't care where he traveled. I don't care if he pulled for WAP. I don't care if he knows Denise Waddles. I don't care all that shit. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest arm wrestler we've ever seen. The sample size does not matter. It matters if it can be a hiccup or an anomaly. But if a guy can do 1, 2, 3, and then stonewall Levon while smiling, he's the fucking GOAT. Right? And he's the GOAT. Well, he's not going to be the GOAT. He didn't pull for 40 years like John. He didn't. I don't give a shit. He's the GOAT. I don't give a fuck. He's the GOAT.
I lean towards your style of thinking there too, where it's more for me about highest peak.
Highest peak, highest capacity, done, what's been accomplished, and I don't care if it's been done in 5 minutes. When it's at that level, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. No, is he not the GOAT because he didn't re-engage in our sport for 20 years? He'll make more money in MMA or in a real sport. Like we fault him for that. He's still the GOAT.
Yeah,
still the GOAT.
I catch all kinds of shit because everyone thinks Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time, and I know he has the greatest career. He got the greatest career of all time. Calvin Johnson was better than him.
He was 6'5", better vertical, better hands, less.
Doesn't even matter if he's open. Throw it up. Triple coverage. It doesn't matter.
Less drops per season. Never had a Hall of Famer throw for him to his whole career. Like right.
Stanford will probably get there.
Yeah, and Jerry Rice had John Taylor on the other side of on the other side, so they couldn't always give him the best shutdown guy, but he had Montana. But you have to play. But I agree, Calvin Johnson was much more fucking Megatron. The guy was the only thing is that he just played for the wrong franchise.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But for sure,
Yeah, I like highest peak guys. Tom Brady, you can make the argument though. Like his peak was fucking crazy, man. Like I seen him in the Super Bowl throw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like they were down 28-3 against the Falcons. They come back and win. He did it with 2 different teams. He did it with different coaches. He did it with Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. Like he had good teams for sure. But NFL, I don't like talking about GOATs a lot and greatest of all time. Who's the best by position? And there's been so many great NFL players. It's almost like you take the top 3 and they all are, you could argue the number 1 for any of those guys because there's 22 players and they don't play defense. Like basketball, you play defense too. Like football, you're not playing any defense if you're a quarterback, so it is tough to argue like that, but there's so many guys that make arguments.
I think Brady was a better team leader. I think he was a better leader of men.
For sure.
And he was able to inspire greatness around him, which is a trait, right? This is not, it's an intangible trait. It's not quantifiable, but it's a trait. Better than Aaron. If I had one game, one guy, same receiver, same offensive line, peak year, peak ability, it's fucking Aaron Rodgers, 2007-ish. The dude throwing darts. It literally looked like he was throwing darts on a board.
Dude, I seen it, yeah. I mean, he killed my team for forever, so.
And arrogant. We gotta love that cocky arrogant. I love that shit. But that's again me being biased. But that plays a part in my opinion. But I love the cocky arrogance too because he backed it up. But yeah, I mean, it's not having Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time is not a terrible argument. I mean, we're nitpicking, right?
Yeah.
But
that's what you get when you get to the top. I mean, and you said a lot of shit that I think we'll talk about in future podcasts too with Goat. So I don't want to touch on that too much.
no.
But one of the last things I wanted to ask you: this Michael Chandler Conor McGregor fight coming up. There's some people saying it might not happen. I haven't heard any. I think that's all rumors and bullshit. I think it's going down. Both guys have waited too long, and McGregor's been out essentially 3 years. Chandler hasn't fought since Poirier beat the fuck out of him. It was a good fight, but he took a lot of damage. So both guys are been out of the sport for a minute. Who do you think wins and why in this matchup?
Doesn't Chandler have a win on Oliveira? I mean, he has a pretty good resume. This isn't a dud.
He's fought a lot of
but,
tough guys.
Yeah, and he has a win on Poirier too, I believe.
No,
he doesn't have a win on Poirier.
No, I can check, but I'm 99% sure he doesn't.
And I know he's a ground guy who's fearless standing.
Great wrestler.
Yeah, but this all comes down to what McGregor are we going to see? We're not going to see the hungry, driven. This guy's, I say fat. It's a relative term, but he's a fat, ridiculously wealthy. He's not a warrior anymore.
He's a fat cat for sure.
Yeah. So and the money will be there, but I don't care. I don't think this guy cares about money. So because he's coming in the less hungry of both athletes, I would. It wouldn't surprise. First of all, I don't believe it'll happen. If it did happen, I'd have him as the underdog, unless he comes in chiseled. Then obviously you give him the nod. But what version of McGregor are we going to see? But I'm not a big McGregor fan to start off with. I never was. Like GSP. I'm not a big fan of these guys. I mean, we're talking about the greatest fighter of all time, bar none, is Fedor. Hits like a tank and can take a beating and a half. YouTube, Randleman versus Fedor. Tell me if you've ever seen a man do that. Get smashed on his neck, where you think his neck is broken. 7 seconds later, he's tapping out the other guy. Like, show me that level of focus in while you're, in the absolute heat of battle. Anyway, I went on a tangent there, but yeah, I can't see McGregor coming in top form. But if he did or didn't, that's like that can go either way. We don't have the information on either of them. We don't have enough information. Enough information.
I just looked it up. Chandler's lost 3 of his last 4. He beat Dan Hooker, lost to Oliveira, lost to Gaethje, beat the fucking corpse of Tony Ferguson.
That was a good fight with Gaethje though.
That was good. All of his fights are good. Even his fight with Poirier, he ended up getting choked out, but it was a war. I mean, he's taken a lot of damage. He had wars with Eddie Alvarez in different organizations. Like he's had wars his whole life.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if it happens, I'll favor him because there's no way out of those two, McGregor's coming in hungrier with more incentive. So just on that alone, McGregor's the type of guy that he's not about the fight. He's not about the sweat, the blood, the effort. He's about the show, and he has less to prove, and he's already accomplished everything, which means that a guy like that most likely will come in soft and unprepared and most likely be embarrassed. Or he realizes that's who he is and he won't do it at all, and it will never happen because he knows unless he's ridiculously hungry, which he isn't anymore, he won't take a fight.
I'd be shocked if it doesn't happen. I think Conor's going to fucking starch him. Like, just stylistically, Michael Chandler gets touched up in every fight. He gets hit. Yeah. He gets hit a lot.
McGregor,
he's a sniper.
He's one of the most accurate, one of the most accurate punchers of in the history of the league.
And he's got power.
Yeah.
And Chandler's a lot shorter than him, and even though he has a high level wrestling, he likes to bang. And the way he closes distance, no matter what you say about Conor McGregor, he's one of the best at distance management. And if Chandler tries to rush in there and throw some, he's going to get hit with a combo that's going to be vicious.
Yeah.
Now, is he Nate Diaz tough where he's able to keep getting up? Does he keep getting up and then Conor gets tired? That's the question. I think that's how Conor loses the fight, is the gas tank. If Chandler can take him down and make him wrestle and wear him out, then it's fair game. But if he tries to stand and fight with him, he's going to be in a world of hurt. And I think he's ballsy enough. He's going to. He's going to try to get in and hit him. So
you make a good point. I mean, McGregor has incredible reach, even for his. He's got a reach that for his average for someone his height he has incredible reach, and he uses his distance very well. Tags guys, who come in. I mean, yeah, good point. Maybe if it happens, I saw a great one last weekend. Poirier versus Makachev. What a fucking! I had Makachev killing him, and every round Poirier survives the round. He might have even taken a round or two, and I'm like, he's building momentum as he goes into the fourth round, and I'm like, he's gonna win this fucking fight, and then Makachev got him in a fucking submitted him. Just because he's a stronger dude, he's a beast, but. What a fucking gutsy performance by Poirier! Like, for a 35-year-old, like what a ballsy fucking.
Yeah, he went out on his shield. He went out on his shield for sure. He fought his ass off, and I mean, Makhachev's biggest strike of that fight was an illegal headbutt, which it should be legal.
Illegal.
Yeah.
I don't know, illegal or unintentional. I don't know. Was it?
I mean, it was unintentional for sure, but that was his biggest. That was what did the most damage. But yeah, I love Poirier. He's a warrior, tough dude.
Yeah.
Comes to fight, doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, that was a great fight.
Great win over McGregor. That fucking put a big smile on my face when he beat McGregor.
Dude, he knocked him out once, and then he broke his leg. That was crazy.
Fucking awesome. Yeah.
All right, Chris, I can see your mic starting to die over there. So
is it? All right.
It's blinking a little, but no, great first podcast, man. Good talking to you. And we'll do it again next week. We'll come up with some more shit, maybe a little spicier shit, maybe the 10 biggest cucks or 10 biggest betas or 5 biggest betas in arm wrestling, or we'll figure something out for next week.
Yeah, I think every episode we should have one top 10 list of something. We have to. That's
you do 5 and I'll do 5.
That works. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, brother. Thank you, and I'll see you next week for sure.
Sounds good, buddy.
Later,
man.
Spartacus Project Podcast.